Albany Unified School District Board of Education regular meeting for April 22nd, 2014, and we're returning to open session. May I have a roll call, please?
Student Board Member Chen.
Here.
Student Board Member Lee.
Here.
Member Rosenbaum.
Here.
Member Lowe.
Here.
Vice President Maris.
Here.
President Knight.
Here. And for those who wish to join us, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, and this evening the board took one action in closed session. The board granted a leave to employee number 2013-14-1, 7-8, from effective April 23rd, 2014 until April 22nd, 2015. Let's see. So the next on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
So I would like to recommend that we move item 9E to the top of the agenda, please.
9E is a review and action item, which is to approve employment contract for Valerie Williams, Superintendent. To the top of the agenda in front of the consent calendar?
Yes,
Is that your
please. Yes.
suggestion?
That's my suggestion.
You need a second, or, was that a
Is that a
motion?
second?
I second.
All right.
All in favor?
Well, so we've got a proposal, a motion to approve the agenda with that one change. Are there any other changes anyone would like to suggest? We're good with that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's unanimous approval of the agenda, and we'll then move directly on to that very item that Ron just mentioned. And I'll have a few words to say about this, I think, just to introduce it. So this is, if you're looking at the packet, way down is 9E, approve employment contract for Valerie Williams, Superintendent. And I'll give the background. We learned of our current superintendent, who is unfortunately not able to be here this evening because of a death in the family. But we learned of her retirement about a year ago. She announced it, I believe, last June. And so we contracted with Ray & Associates, a national search firm, to hunt for a new superintendent. That position was advertised in February, which is a customary time to advertise for a new superintendent to take over in the fall. We had 85 applicants from all over the country. We interviewed the top 6, and we were very pleased. It was a very strong field. That top 6 was a great group. And we narrowed it to 2 finalists. Those 2 finalists were also interviewed by a community advisory panel who gave us really valuable feedback to aid in our selection. The process was confidential up until the point where the board made the final decision in closed session on April 14th in order to protect, candidates' confidentiality. Many of them are superintendents who need to go back to their districts after this process. So on that date, April 14th, we immediately made an open session announcement to everyone. This was at the district office. There were a number of folks there that day, still working right before break. And we made our open session announcement that we had chosen Valerie Williams, who is currently Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources in Dublin Unified School District. And we sent notice to all staff, and then after that issued a press release. So now that's a choice. However, we still have the contract, and the contract has to be negotiated between the board and the superintendent, prospective superintendent, and then approved. And so I was delegated to do the negotiations by the board, given certain parameters, and worked with our counsel, and Ms. Williams worked with her counsel, and together we came up with an agreement that I'm presenting to the board this evening. It was distributed, we finished the negotiation just last evening, and so it was distributed to the public the first thing this morning, and I believe that board members have had a chance to look at it. And so I'm presenting it now as, I think, a really good agreement. It's an important public document because it is a document that shows the public exactly what the arrangement is between the board and its only employee. We have only one employee, and that's our superintendent. And it is how we hold the superintendent accountable, and it lists the superintendent's responsibilities. And so I think it's an important thing for the public to be aware of. So with that, I will open it up for any questions, comments from either the public or the board on this contract.
2 comments for me. Number one is, thank you, Jonathan. Reading that contract is, I think, it's really a great contract for the district, for the board, and for Ms. Williams as well. And it sounds very fair and honest. The other comment is that the public can actually view the contract on our website. It's up already.
And I
And-
believe there are about 30 copies in the back of the room, too, if anybody wanted to flip through it. I think that it's back there.
And the one thing that, that impressed me when we were doing the interviews was Ms. Williams' sense of transparency. And I think we're getting an amazingly wonderful superintendent who's going to be very engaged with the public in our schools and our youth.
Absolutely. Alan?
I'll make a comment. Ron and I were both fortunate enough to do a site visit to the Dublin School District, and we found people who have worked with Valerie for a very long, 3 years, I guess, at least, who were very sorry that she was considering leaving their district. But they liked her so well, they were very supportive of her moving on to a new experience, more responsibility. They thought she could handle it, so I was really impressed as well with Valerie. Throughout the interviews and as well with her personally and with the people she's worked with. They emphasized her transparency, her collaboration in working with everybody. I'm really looking forward to this, Valerie. Thank you.
And I actually had the opportunity to speak to folks who go way further back in your career, and it just was unanimous, and it just was heartfelt. It just felt right.
Part of the process, I should say that members Rosenbaum and Maris had the opportunity to visit Val's district. It's called a site visit, and up to 2 board members can go, so that it isn't a quorum visiting the district, and then report back to the board in closed sessions. They both were able to do that, and I talked to quite a few people and had a pretty glowing report.
And what was really interesting is that we took one of our union presidents, our teachers' union presidents, Gary Dunnigan, who's sitting shyly in the back, and Jackie Mebuson, our secretary for the superintendent, and because we all need to be able to work together with our new leadership. And everybody was very pleased. There were some tears on some of the sites when they saw that you might be leaving.
So Board Member Black was not able to be here this evening, but he's reviewed the contract, and he sent me a comment which I will read. I have carefully reviewed the contract between the school district and Valerie Williams. If I were present at the meeting, I would vote in favor of its approval. I am confident that Ms. Williams will be an outstanding superintendent, and I'm looking forward to working with her. I would also like to thank Board Member Rosenbaum for all his work in bringing us a great group of candidates for the position, my fellow board members for collaborating effectively to make a selection, and President Knight for his time and diligence in negotiating this contract.
So with that, I'd like to take the privilege of moving that we approve the employment contract. Oh,
One
sorry.
more thank you, and
Yes.
this is coming from you. Thank you to Jackie and to,
Well, then it might be time for you.
maybe,
That's
I
okay.
just
That's
want to
okay.
thank him now.
That's
Okay.
Well, let's approve the contract
the
first.
contract first.
Then we have a
yeah.
couple of, then I'd like to hear from Ms. Williams, and then we have a couple of more things to do, so.
And I think we can also, it's also fine to have questions or comments from the public at this stage. So we should allow a moment for that if there's anyone who'd like to. Continue with your motion there, Ron.
If not, then I will continue with my motion to approve the employment contract for Valerie Williams, superintendent, effective July 1st, 2014, for a 4-year term.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the contract. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So that's unanimous, and the contract's approved.
So Val, would you like to say a few words?
Good evening, President Knight, Vice President Maris, trustees, student board members, staff and community. As I was driving over here, I had everything planned what I was going to say, and it just went right out of my head. I have to say, I am so humbled. I want to thank you all very much for this initial confidence in me to take on the leadership here in a wonderful district. I have heard so many great things about Albany from people who live here, who actually work in Dublin, and some community members. And I'm excited to working with a great board and to continue the great work that Albany is doing for student achievement, and to be working with a fabulous staff. And so I'm here also to learn about the Albany community. But I have one question that's been burning in my head. Is it Albany or is it Albany? Because I have heard people tell me I can't mess this one up. And it has to be
yes.
It has to be right. So who has the definitive, what is it?
If you're from the East Coast, it's Albany.
It's
Yeah, but we're not from the East Coast.
My impression, and I'll defer to Annie because I've lived here 15 years now. My impression is that if you're from here, it's Albany. If you're from somewhere else, it's Albany. But if you're from somewhere else, you don't care as much. So maybe you better go with Albany.
Well, I've been here for almost 40 years, and it's been Albany in my mouth. That's just the way it comes out, because I'm from Brooklyn.
Because you're from New York.
Well, you're not capable of saying it the other way. That's just, there's nothing you can do about
I
it.
don't think anybody really minds either.
You got the idea? You got a lot of,
I
you got a lot of freedom.
I do. Maybe when I'm here long enough, I can change it to Albany, and I'll say that I'm part of the community. But I'm just very excited to be here. And again, I look forward to working and getting to meet everybody in the community, and to just keep working for our kids. I hear the Albany kids are wonderful here.
So Val, one thing that impressed us when we came to visit, and those of us who had a chance to really get to know you, know that you really spend time in the schools. And you have a habit of going to each school on a Friday with a T-shirt.
That is true. I do. Oh my goodness.
So you have no excuse.
No, I have Friday shirt.
She doesn't want one.
Oh my goodness.
We have a shirt from every school site. And we know that you're a runner, so one of these is actually a track shirt.
Great.
This is from the Aquatic Center. Whoops.
This is.
We have this amazing
She'll have
aquatic
to
center.
do some laps in the pool.
Yeah.
No, she's a runner.
She's
I'm
a
a
runner
runner. I
and a
can learn to
yoga
swim.
teacher. Albany Cougars. Here's the high school.
Somebody asked me what the mascot
The
was.
students like that one.
The students like this one? So I should do this one first?
So you wear that one to the high school.
First.
And we know you're petite, so we got
Okay.
small ones.
Oh, good, thank you.
McGregor School,
Oh, yay.
continuation
It's a high
schools.
school, yes, because Albany has 2 high schools.
Good.
Yes, wonderful.
And the middle school, the
Okay.
Cobras.
Oh, all different colors. Oh, it's got my name on it too, look.
I think you would get docked points in PE if you didn't have your
Okay,
name
no,
on
I
there.
okay, so this
Oh,
one.
this is middle school.
This one is.
Middle school,
Oh,
okay.
yes,
Unity Week, yeah.
Yep, this is.
That's a track shirt.
Okay, oh, all right, well, pink.
I've been looking forward to
Oh,
doing
this
this
is
all week. Here we have Marin,
Oh, this is.
one of our
great.
elementary
Yes,
schools.
The
yes,
Dolphins,
elementary.
right?
Oh, the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So you'll have no excuse. Cornell,
The Cornell Coyotes.
Oh my gosh, this is fabulous. You guys are gonna cry.
and Ocean View.
Ocean View.
Otters.
That's like cheers.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we have gators.
And we have a sweatshirt as well from Ocean
This
View.
is great. Oh, wonderful.
Because it gets colder here than it does in Dublin.
Yes, it does.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you so much. Oh my goodness. So I wonder if I'm going to get in trouble for wearing one of these shirts this Friday in Dublin. I might. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. So the first Friday I start, I will be wearing my shirts every Friday. This is great in visiting schools. I look forward to meeting all of the kids also, meet the students from all of the schools, and hopefully get to know everybody and visit classrooms. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
so
you, Val.
welcome.
Thank you,
So we
Val.
have set aside a little bit of time, actually. There's some light refreshments in the
But,
back.
but, before
before we do.
Before that, Pat
There's more.
has another presentation to make.
Oh, my gosh.
I thought that,
Oh,
I
well,
thought that Ron.
oh,
had
I have a presentation to make. The board has a presentation to make.
We have a special person that we would like to thank, and maybe you'd like to start that?
So Jackie, it's been so much work to get this job done right, and you've been such a gem, and most of the work was done by Jackie, not by me. So Jackie.
Thank you, all of you. That's very sweet.
And we've also
you.
have something for Linda Williams, who worked with you.
Yes.
And so if you could get that to her, we. have this.
Absolutely, yes.
So the board had a discussion that, that we couldn't have gone through this superintendent search process as well as we did with such a wonderful result without so much support from you and from Linda. So this is on behalf of the board, but also a thank you from the entire community of Albany, because all of the extra work and time and detail orientation that you put to helping us do this is going to benefit the whole community. So we wanted to recognize that.
Thank you.
You're quite
Very
welcome.
Thank you, Jackie.
Jackie, you've been amazing, and, I think we're going to be very happy because of the work we put in with what's going to come out of it. So the challenge out there, Val.
So that's
Well-
that's why we were shushing Alan, who was starting it out, and now it's all
I could
worked
hardly
out.
hold myself.
So now it's all worked out, and we can
Great.
segue back to what you had planned. which
I was just going to say, we've allowed 5 or 10 minutes or so for a little bit of meet the new superintendent. We'll have other meet and greets in the future, of course. This is only the very beginning, but a couple of refreshments in the back, so we'll all just take a recess of 5 minutes or so, and
We'll hope you'll take the opportunity to introduce yourselves and,
Please do.
and say hello.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just came to me last week. Yeah, but it was vacation, Jackie.
I know we're all having a good time, but I think we need to move on. So I can actually see this thing. There we go. All right. So I'm going to take us to the next item on the agenda, and we're actually still just up at the approval of the consent calendar. So we have a number of items on the consent calendar. Are there any that anyone would like to comment on?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on personnel, item B, I guess, or, yeah, B.
Okay.
And item C, the field trips.
All right. Anyone else?
None for me.
All right. Alan, go ahead.
So I'd like to note under new hire that we have a returning employee, Alan Gard, who was in our financial department. He left for a couple of years, and now he's coming back as the chief business officer. He's, to me, very highly respected. I really missed him when he left, and now he's coming back. So I think that's very good news. On the field trips, I noticed that Ocean View seems to be have about half the number of field trips that Marin and Cornell have. Is that an equity issue?
It's a question.
Certainly might be. I can consult.
Is
with
there
the principal
potential
and
for
find
making
out.
up the, yeah,
Well, it could also be the number of students we could measure in different ways.
okay.
That
But
way.
it just appears to be an equity.
It does
issue. We
appear
need
by
to
this
clear that-
report. And
yeah.
this report counts just a number of field trips, and so we can investigate further if you'd like. Go into.
I'd like
number
to
of
have a better
students.
sense that there's equity there. And I noticed that McGregor has 0. I would like to see McGregor, before they blend in with the high school, have a couple field trips. No? Okay, you're the expert. Okay.
That's a good question, though, because many of the McGregor students are in regular classes, and
It's
so
a
do
high
they go on field trips with the class if they're in it?
Correct.
Yeah.
So they have been going on field trips with,
They may have if one of their Albany High School classes goes, and
Okay.
they're certainly welcome to go with the
Okay.
classes that they're in.
thank you for clearing that up.
It would be difficult to take them all on a
As a school.
field trip as a school based on the staffing and the number of students right now.
Thank you.
It'd be really hard to track, who's where, what. I mean, tracking field trips at the high school is really hard. And I know that we've bounced back and forth about, Ocean View's participation. Some years it's been larger, some years it's been smaller, and, the equity issue is important.
All right, do I have a motion on the consent?
President Knight,
Yes.
I'd like to make one correction on the
Oh, yes.
items
Thank you.
on the consent calendar on the independent contract for Joanne Weil. There's an error in the dates of service. It should read August 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. The board backup says 13 and 14. The actual contract reads correctly. This was just a clerical error.
And you sent that to us as an email, I believe.
did.
Yeah.
But
Thank
I
you.
wanted to put it in the public record.
And is that basically an extension of an existing contract? It's not.
Correct.
It's not an additional.
Correct.
contract. Thank you.
So I'll move the consent calendar as presented with that correction.
I'll second.
Is there any public comment on this before we vote on the consent? All right, all in favor of approving the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We will now move on to our student member report.
Good evening. So first off, we'd like to say that the details for this year's high school prom have been officially announced. It will be held on June 7th at the Craneway Pavilion in Richmond, with tickets currently at $110.
Ouch.
It's worth it.
Great comment.
Believe it.
That's a cool place.
And then next week, sophomores and juniors at Albany High School will be participating in the CST and SBAC, also known as Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium examinations. Bell schedules will be modified to accommodate for these testings.
Also, the theater ensemble will be performing their final play, Pride and Prejudice, starting this Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Little Theater. And it's their annual student production, and it will be directed by senior Cordy Driussi and junior Julio Ria. And also, last month, many students from Albany High School attended We Day, and we actually received a special segment in the San Francisco Chronicle, and we could pass that around if any of you are interested.
Oh, yeah.
I missed that.
Love to see it, I didn't
So
see it.
you mean there was an article about your attendance there? or-
About the event.
Oh, that's great.
I saw We Day covered on television as well.
It was the whole
Yeah.
show was covered.
It's a great,
Spectacular.
greatest.
Do you want to each tell us maybe what one highlight of the day was of attending the concert, or?
Oh, yeah. Well, for me, what I took out of it was that there were so many inspirational speakers there, figureheads from all over the United States and all over the world, and they were here to really remind us that you don't have to wait until you're much older to start taking action and doing things, and that when you do community service, that you don't always have to do it just because it's a burden. You can be selfish and selfless at the same time.
Wow.
In the sense, like, for example, if you love school dances. You can fundraise through school dances. You don't have to only fundraise through the traditional methods. And it was definitely a very eye-opening experience for all of us.
I felt like it really gave high schoolers a chance to look into lives that they might have not faced themselves. For example, I really realized just how much humans can go through, and how strong they are in general. Like, there were speakers there that went through things I could not possibly imagine that the everyday high schooler did not go through, but their testimony, their ability to stand up from the struggles that they've been through really reminds us as high schoolers that no matter like what the stress we face today, that there's someone who's been through it, and if we continue, that we'll succeed. So that really was sweet.
Just a comment, I'm really impressed with how you've learned that lesson. You can contribute to the community as early as you want to, whether you're 14 or 18. The Build On group at the high school, the leadership group, there's so many of our students that are really sensing what they can do for their community and the world. It's just incredible to see how they understand. There was a discussion in the Build On class the other day about non-government organizations' contributions to the countries they serve, and how they have to be very careful about how they present these offerings to the cultures that are very different from ours. You have to be very cautious, and they had such great understanding about that issue. It was really impressive. I'd like to put in a plug for Pride and Prejudice as well. I saw Guys and Dolls a couple of weeks ago, and it was, and Pat saw it as well. We have some incredible entertainers and actors and singers in our high school, and this is an opportunity for the community to see them. It's this coming weekend starting Thursday, and the following weekend starting Thursday.
I just would say that you guys are from Albany. You know, it's built in, so it's all right. You know, that social consciousness that I think is really important and that this community values so much.
Well, go ahead, Pat.
Okay, I just had a quick question and then a little comment. So the $110, now, does that include dinner or?
Definitely. There's a
okay.
full menu, and there's a DJ.
Oh, that'll be great.
Yeah,
So everyone can just go there, and then they'll have their meal in that wonderful setting in Richmond, and then they'll be able to stay there for the rest of the party. That sounds great.
Also, I would like to add is that the parking is free, in case that's concerning for some people, and also that the class councils, the junior and senior class councils, we've been fundraising to lower the prices of the tickets for the students. So hopefully we'll be able to give like $10, $15 discounts to like the first 50 students that purchase tickets. So.
Yeah, that's really great. It's also very nice that it's closer, so that, in terms of driving and not having to pay for parking, that's good. And then the one other comment I was going to make is I don't usually mention, but it's like, so I have a son who's a junior at the high school, and I would just like to say that we should recognize and thank the poor juniors this year at the high school, because they are taking a tremendous number of tests. From the leftovers of the CST tests to the new SBAC field tests, to whatever advanced placement and additional tests that they have to take. So it's, I would just like to recognize and support them as much as we can. And I hope that the high school is making clear, that there are these tests, and that of course they should do well, but that clearly they are contributing, of course, to California and to other students with some of these tests, because they're not going to get the results. They're just contributing their efforts. So I feel for them, and I think we should recognize them.
So, shall we take a moment of silence?
For the juniors.
Yeah, exactly.
Or for the juniors' parents.
No, the juniors, the ones that actually.
We could do that if we weren't running a little behind.
Okay.
So thank you very much for your reports this evening. And we'll move on. We have a staff report from the Sustainability Committee.
So thank you, Chair Knight, Vice Chair Amaris. Thank you, Jackie, for inviting us here, and members of the board. So my name is Max Way. I'm the chair of the Sustainability Committee. I've been the chair for just a few months. And Faustine Yu is my co-presenter who represents our student member on the committee from Albany High. So I can set the timer now for about 2 minutes for myself and leave the remainder of the time for Faustine. But I would also like to leave some time for questions. So I actually came last year, but I'll just recap what does our committee do and what are some of the priorities. And there's a pretty long list that was sent out by Claire Griffith from the city staff, and it's not my intention to go over all of this. It's a lot of material, and it just indicates how lucky we are that we have someone like Claire and the staff members who are working on our behalf for sustainability efforts. They span buildings, transport, waste, green infrastructure, water, a lot of important areas, and of course energy as well. So in terms of our committee, we have really an advisory role. So we work pretty closely with Claire and Jeff in the development office. We advise the committee on priorities, and we make recommendations to council. So for example, we just heard a report from a PACE financing group called HERO, which was very interesting. So we'll probably act on that to either recommend or not recommend it. We'll probably recommend it for the city to consider. So it's a residential financing program which can enable homeowners to make home retrofits more readily. Just an example, and we do collaborate pretty closely with Claire and staff on the status of the Climate Action Plan. So Albany, as you know, has a pretty aggressive and was one of the first cities to adopt a Climate Action Plan for greenhouse gas reduction with a goal of 25% reduction in emissions relative to the level of 2004. So we have done an analysis of that inventory. We appear to be on track, but so that's very good news. But I don't want to overplay that in the sense that that is assuming flat levels of demand. So in the past few years, we've had flat levels of VMT, which is vehicle mileage. So there's a little bit of confounding with the fact that we're recovering from the recession and maybe younger people are still staying at home and cocooning a little bit more. So it's very contingent on a lot of things such as zero growth being assumed. And also another fact is that a lot of those reductions are due to state and county level actions. So maybe 70 to 80% are due to the state cleaning up its electricity supply and fuel supply, for example. So we as a sustainability committee still see the need for greater community action and hopefully tapping into or leveraging, so to speak, community members, which include agencies or bodies such as the school board. So an example of that is we are considering a utility users tax to be put onto the ballot. We're analyzing that. We're bringing a proposal, or we brought a proposal to council earlier. We'll bring another revision in May, I believe, as an example. So those are just some of the examples. Other example specific to the school board is that we've been meeting with Ron and Pat and or Alan and Don Albright, the superintendent, to discuss or to at least review some of the school data for energy efficiency and water usage and so forth. So just an advisory role, but we think that that's good to have that interaction and visibility. So probably spoken for too long, but hopefully there's some time for questions later as well. So here's now Faustine.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Faustine, and I'm a current junior in Albany High School. And I would like to thank you for having me here today and presenting about my experience in the City Sustainability Committee. First, I would like to say I'm really honored to be in this committee because this committee really inspired myself in developing outlooks and motivation, self-motivation. Why? It's because from the start of the summer, when I first joined this committee, I see the dedication, the strive, and the passion. and the thoughtfulness of all the committee members. I feel like every single person has an urge to change the environmental factors of the city and our whole entire world now, facing like global warming and all these environmental crises. So that's my thoughts on the city sustainability committee, and I've also learned a lot through attending the meetings and just being through the process of all the things that the city does to help with these problems. In addition, I'm also in the Arts and Greens subcommittee. This subcommittee is a committee that plans out the Arts and Green Festival, which is next Sunday from 11 to 4 at right by the Albany High School Memorial Park. So if any of you are interested in going, it's a really fascinating festival, and there's a lot of booths, we plan all this out. We have programs, arts that promote the community's environmental factors and art. So there will be a lot of performances and great food and great exhibits. And so in addition to my experience in this committee and in the Arts and Green Festival committee, I would like to recognize the actions that we've actually been doing, specific actions. And the city the sustainability committee, first is the Green Coalition and the Hero Pace program and the CAP and the programs that Max has mentioned. So, and also I would like to say in the high school, we have our Earth team. Sorry, I'm kind of getting myself crossed here, but I would just like to say that there are a lot of things that the community tries to do to help with what the sustainability committee is trying to do. It's to have a climate action plan, to support the climate action plan, and to reduce the usage of resources on a lot of non-profit or beneficial organizations. Like some examples are, the Strolls and Rollers Transition Albany, and from the committee and from all the experience, I've learned that there are a lot of people passionate about helping with this, and students, Albany High School students, are passionate in helping with this as well. So then what I would like to say today is that we can use our power of unity to help support all these passions, support all the plans to reach the goal that we want to have in the future. So, with our mutual goal of sustainability and beneficial development, I believe that the school board, the students, the communities, we can all work together to promote actions and so that we can reach our goal. And the one thing that I think is the most effective way to do this is to raise awareness of all the things that we could do and all the things that we should know about. And just looking outside before the meeting, I saw so many flyers that's so exciting that I didn't know about before. And I feel like these are the things our community should know. These are the things that benefits everyone. But then a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people are passionate about contributing, but we should get our words out and put actions into reaching our goals. And that, of course, that's what meetings are all about, to plan out these actions. So I look forward to working with the school board in the future, and also just developing myself and working with this city committee to actually reach our goals and get something done in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. Questions from the board? Pat?
Well, first, thank you
Faustine, I'm sorry, I said your name wrong. Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you so much to both of you for your service to the community. works with Board Member Maris's point about how we have so much community service in Albany, and that's really wonderful to see. So I had a specific question. I missed the last liaison meeting, and I know there had been some talk previously about the state monies. Was it Proposition 39?
Yes.
All right, and how certain districts were going to have access to those monies, and I don't know if there was any further conversation about that, or whether you know any additional information about whether that money will come to us and how we might utilize it at all. And if you don't, no problem. I'm sure that maybe we can hear more about it later.
Yeah, I think Don Albright, who's sitting right there, can probably address some of that. But I think at our last meeting, Don mentioned that there was an initial amount of funding for, I think, scoping that had been released to the district, if I'm not mistaken, Don. But for Proposition 39, I think there are some specific requirements, one of which I think is that projects need to have a certain degree of readiness, right? This shovel readiness sort of criterion. But Don, I don't know if you want to field that one or add to that briefly here.
Yeah, because I remember we did talk about that. Certainly. And you had some specifics.
Yeah, the district is eligible for $1.2 million over 5 years of Prop 39 funding. And I had discussed with the Green Committee some ideas of what we might do with that. I've since gotten more information, attended another workshop with the Alameda County Office of Education, and we have to, our return on investment has to be like 1.02 of whatever it is of the amount that we spend. So some of the ideas that I had previously, we're not going to get that kind of investment, so we have to, or that kind of return, I'm sorry. So we're going to have to really look on how we spend this money, and we have to have a mixture of energy projects. I was thinking that we could probably use most of that money to redo the air systems at the middle school and the high school, but we won't get enough savings on our investment for doing that. So we can probably do one of those schools with that money, but we'll have to also look at doing other projects so that we get that 1.02%.
How do we measure those savings, Don?
Well, through the benchmarking and through energy bills.
Thank you so much. I had thought there would be some additional progress, and I look forward to hearing. I'm sure there's going to be continued conversation at the green level and among the schools to hear more about what seems feasible and workable.
Alan?
So I want to thank you for the collaboration experience we've had recently on the Green Committee. Seems to me that's going to work really well for the whole community. School district's a big part of that community, so it's good to have us working on that. Another thing you mentioned was a potential parcel tax or a utility tax to support the let's see, what's it, the CAP
It's really
programs?
a revenue. I probably didn't describe that very well, but it's basically a revenue mechanism or a proposed revenue mechanism, which is not officially proposed yet, but it's the direction that the committee is taking to support the climate action plan. And it would be an increase. There's currently an existing utility users tax, which is a tax on your utility bill, basically your bill from PG&E. Don't quote me, but I think the numbers are about 7%, and this increased to like 9%. So it's a small increase, proposed increase to your utility bill, and it would go towards supporting the climate action plan. And one thing which I would note from our analysis is that Albany is fairly unique in that the dominant portion of Albany's emissions are not from transportation like most of the rest of the state, like Los Angeles or places like San Jose, but it's really from natural gas, which is to say from heating, which is to say primarily water heating and space heating. So it is a different sort of paradigm. So to say that the state, just let the state do it, is not quite going to directly address it, because the state is trying to confront it, maybe a different set of priorities than Albany. So there are some unique features of Albany And we think that this can really boost some of the existing efforts as well that are being led by the city. Okay, the city's been doing a great job of getting external funding, but this would really boost their efforts. And one thing I would comment on is there's been a lot of discussion or perhaps consternation about the fact that we mentioned that the city appears to be tracking to meeting its 2020 goal. But I think we need to step back for a moment and say, look, if the state were tracking to its 20% reduction goal in 2020, would it just pull up stakes and just say, we're done, or we're going to stop working on the climate challenge? And the answer is, of course not. So really, to me, it's really a question of whether the community of Albany really wants to make a strong stand in the battle against climate change or not. So, we may be on track or tending to be on track, but there's error bars associated with that. There could be a big boom economically. There could be more vehicles driven, et cetera, et cetera. There could be more development. So I don't want to overplay that. That is good news. But on the other hand, there's a lot that you're reading in the newspaper every day about what's going on in the world associated with climate change.
So, sorry.
Can I finish? Yeah.
Yes.
So we had a report from St. Rouse's Schools recently which shows that Albany is one of the lowest vehicles to schools cities in the state. We do a lot of bicycling and
Interesting.
walking. We're a small city, of course.
The lowest vehicles? Okay, I see. So, good. Yeah.
Lowest vehicle.
That reinforces your description.
The other thing, when you discuss the climate action plan, source of revenue, there was some question at the meeting whether or not the school district was going to be doing a parcel tax.
Yes.
Tonight on our agenda, we clearly are going to be doing a parcel tax, I believe. We're going to be finalizing or discussing the language. We have a committee that's very active, so know that we are very serious about proposing a parcel tax and putting it on the ballot in November.
Which was going to be my question is,
Sustainability
if you're looking at a
Committee-
ballot measure, what election are you looking at? Just practical question.
Yeah, the Sustainability Committee is aware that the parcel tax is probably a very real event that will happen and be on the ballot this fall. We actually had proposed the utility users tax 2 years ago in 2012. It never made it
To the ballot.
or through council. That was 2 years ago. So we, as a sustainability committee and as citizens, we clearly believe that this is an important priority and that we should not delay. There's time value of carbon or negative time value of carbon, that the longer we delay, the more costly it becomes, the harder it becomes to deal with. I don't want to get too much on a soapbox, but there is a role for places like communities like Albany to play, communities like Davis and Berkeley. We can make a decision as a community whether or not it's important for us. I believe it's important as a community and as a city to take that action and not to wait. If we do not put it on the ballot in the fall, the question is, well, when will we put it on the ballot? Do we wait another 2 years? And I think, we don't want to wait another 2 years. But it's a real issue. It's a real political challenge. It's difficult to levy multiple, measures to increase, parcel taxes or, additional utility taxes.
Thank goodness that, we value the air and the schools equally, so hopefully that wouldn't get in the way of each other.
Other questions from board members? Alan?
I just wanted to make you aware that the school board is considering the possibility of adding career technology classes, which could be relevant to what you're doing. There's a possibility of doing a Build Leads class, which would combine economics and social issues as well as the engineering kinds of things that go into that. So.
Is this at the high school that you're mentioning, Alan?
Yeah, we got a ways to go, but
yeah.
Well, there is currently, as you may be aware, because I know you're a high school parent, there is a EdSet program.
Right.
Where the students
do
look at issues having to do with the environment and so forth.
Right. Well, I would be in strong support of such programs, Alan. I really think that crossing boundaries and building interdisciplinary training is really important, even at a young age, a relatively young age. So I just want to mention one other thing, if I may, which is that one of the other key activities that we're bringing to council is a proposed Albany Green Coalition, which is what Faustine alluded to. And basically the idea is to get all the community groups which are associated with sustainability issues rallied around or joined together, at least talking to each other. So that would include things like Carbon Zero Albany, Transition Albany, the Sustainability Committee, potentially members from interested citizens and other committees such as the school board, just to see what can the community do, how can we leverage the community, how can we increase awareness that Faustine so eloquently spoke about. So these are things that we'd like to pursue in addition to kind of more staff-sponsored, officially mandated programs. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably have more discussion or perhaps an invitation to the school board a little bit later this year.
And a big thank you and a congratulations for the Buchanan Street bicycle path. It's a beautiful way to enter Albany, as well as a way to promote bicycling. And thank you.
Thank you both for that report. All right, so we will move on. We are at persons to address the board on matters not on the agenda. So it's a public comment period. If anyone's here to talk about something that isn't on the agenda, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. And the board is limited by the Brown Act and can't respond, but we're eager to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jan Stock, and I am a CSCA representative. And, CSCA was showed concern when they found out that McGregor, who's coming to the high school, will not have a clerical staff person with them because that job was eliminated and it's not to be reinstated. And I don't know, was it because of lack of funds? That's the word that sort of swirls around me. Well, I'm not going to accept that, lack of funds, because McGregor had a clerical position before, and how can they not have a clerical position now, or in the fall? And we don't want to burden the high school staff. Did you know that when there were 700 students, there was more clerical staff than there is now? And the population's doubled. We want to know what's the plan. And,
There is an item on the agenda later that concerns McGregor, so maybe part of that question might get answered there.
yeah, I hope so. I hope I'm,
Stick around.
yeah, I will. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? All right. We have 2 review and discussion items this evening. The first is our governance and protocols, which we're revisiting from time to time. We have valuable discussions on these things. We are a little bit behind, not extremely behind. I would suggest we not take the full 30 minutes we've allotted for this, but maybe 15 minutes and see how far we can get. And we can always bring it back. I know there are some things that we'll probably bring back anyway. So scrolling down quickly, we made it last time to...
My notes from last.
Yeah, exactly.
Protocol 15.
Protocol 15, thank you, Alan. And the page for that is coming right up.
Page 152.
All right.
152?
Is Protocol 15, and that's where we stopped. So some of the comments that are already in here were provided in advance of the last meeting, and we're continuing with those, but anyone can bring up anything else at any time. There was no comment on issue 15 provided in advance. Are we good with that one? Anyone wanted to discuss it? Oh, that's just the timer thing.
Oh, a timer.
Yeah. We don't have to evacuate, fortunately.
No, I
15 is good?
I think that seems practical, yeah.
Okay, so then on 16, we had evaluation of the superintendent, and Pat, you had a couple of comments there, and we were trying to work out a protocol for that. Did you want to say anything
That
about what
our
you
future superintendent might
Yeah.
find this, might.
potentially interesting?
Potentially interesting. Okay, so what I had noted was that simultaneous revisions that Jonathan and I made contradicted one another. I actually was willing to take out mine, but to add a point of clarification. So really, the clarification was between was whether there should be board goals as separate from district goals. And it seems to me that it is fine for the board and the superintendent together to set district goals, but that I would put under Jonathan's final point.
Would be on 155. Yeah.
Right, I wrote out one clarification, and I'll give you an example of that. So Jonathan wrote, there should not be separate board and superintendent goals. But I added, although the board may choose to identify an action or strategy that is the board's responsibility to implement in order to achieve the established superintendent district goal. Example, this last round, we determined that we wanted to increase and improve communication. In doing so, the board said that we would take responsibility for writing and with the help of Jackie, distributing board highlights. So that was really not a responsibility of the staff or the superintendent. We specifically said that we would take on that particular point. So that's just an example of why I think we need that clarification. Although, just to clarify, I in general agree that it would make more sense just to have a shared set of primary goals.
With sort of corollaries for somewhat independent goals of the board or the superintendent, is that what you're?
Well, it's just that if it seems like it's appropriate for the board to do something to support the district goal, and the superintendent and the board think that's fine, then we should identify it as our goal, and not say the superintendent should send out the board highlights, or Jackie should send out the board highlights. If we decide that's going to be our responsibility to write them, and then that needs to be clear.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is, I'm still grasping at this, is, the job of a superintendent includes some things that have to have goals that are really outside the purview of a school board.
Yeah.
And so, for example, personnel matters, and lots of other examples, but that's a really important one, where the board really shouldn't be meddling at, and we don't have goals except for making sure that the superintendent does that job. So it's parallel, but it's not the same thing.
Okay, I think I'll let Jonathan, since.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I think you're both making my case for me, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying,
I didn't
Pat.
read it over again, so I'm a little rusty.
No,
so.
that's okay. But I appreciate what you're saying. Pat, I agree completely about that specific action item is a board action item. But I would distinguish, the communication. I would distinguish the action item from the goal and say that our goal as a district is to have better communication with the public between the governance team, which would be the board plus superintendent, and then that can spread all the way down to teachers and parents. It can spread to staff or administration and teachers. And you can look at it any way you want, but you can say as a district, our goal is improved communication. And then we would just say for ourselves, yes, we would like to have, this is our action. We will take this step, and we wouldn't hold the superintendent accountable for not writing highlights for the board, but it doesn't change the overall goal.
So, for example, if the goal was to hire and retain exceptionally excellent teachers, teaching staff or staff, then there would be specific actions that the superintendent would take, specific actions that the board might might take to make that happen. Is
The
that what you're talking
superintendent,
about?
exactly, because the superintendent
Okay.
might come to the board and say, to get the best, we need to negotiate a higher salary. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, and that's something the board might take a
Got it.
role
Higher
in.
starting salary or something.
Starting salary, yeah. So,
So the actual goals are more broad and general.
yeah,
I got it, okay.
and I'm just thinking those are the goals we should set, but that we can also specify action items, and I'm happy with some language that says, some actions would be up to the board. I mean, I kind of liked your draft of that.
Okay, so did I send that to Jackie yet?
You were reading some language that I did not have, so I think there's a little bit more. Please send it to me.
I will do so.
Great.
And then maybe because there's also all this other stuff that I had put in, do you feel that now with your additions, they don't conflict anymore, or are we?
I think if we delete the first paragraph that I wrote,
Yeah.
there won't be any conflict. It will be
The one that's crossed out in the packet?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, good. I think you're probably right about that.
That's good.
Yep. All right. Issue 17, and Member Black, who couldn't be here tonight, did make this comment earlier, and I think this is one we can discuss because it's pretty clear. So the issue is self-monitoring of governance team effectiveness, and annually the board will conduct a self-evaluation. Annually the board will review the governance handbook, which we're in the process of doing, and annually the board will conduct a survey of management staff, I think this is what he's referring to, that includes the self-evaluation survey completed by board members and any feedback they have to the board with regard to the norms and protocols outlined in the governance handbook. I don't recall ever having done that. And then the question is it something we should do? Do we want to do this, or should we strike this from our handbook?
what page are you on again?
Sorry, that's item 17 is on 155.
155.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
If we're going to survey the staff, on our performance, does it make sense to survey the community as well, or certain?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's called an election.
Good
But
point.
it comes
But no, I
every
agree with
4
you.
years.
That's not
true.
often enough.
That's the big one.
That's the big
We answer
survey.
to the public every time we go to Safeway. Come on.
But
Yeah.
during our 4-year period, we could probably learn significant things about how we could
That's right.
improve our performance from the public.
Alan's point is really well taken, except that I don't know how we would do that because surveys don't get answered. But it's really that we need to survey the public rather than staff. We hear from
Well-
staff if there's something bothering them, for sure.
Well, we're here for both, but,
People come to board meetings,
Yeah,
and I would like more people to come to board meetings, but
it's spring.
But this is specifically with regard to the norms and protocols outlined in the governance handbook, right? Right? The way that last bullet point is expressed, it is more about how our governance, how we work together, and how we interact with the staff. I mean, I don't disagree that it is always good to get public feedback, but there are certainly protocols in the governance handbook which have to do with how we interact with the public,
right.
both individually and as a board. So, but I just, as you said, I don't know how easy it would be to get significant.
But, I mean, we interact, I don't know that we need this. I'm just processing as we go along in that. I mean, we interact with management constantly, at least central office staff. I mean, it's not like we're talking about 500 people. We're talking about 1, 2, 3, 5, 6
I'm pretty
people.
sure I recall doing a couple of self-evaluations that were CSBA.
The self-evaluations, yes.
Yeah.
But not,
So that's the first item.
But being evaluated or, I don't know.
well, I
I
personally.
think Paul's right.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. I'm not sure actually how to implement it. Like, I haven't seen an instrument or
Right.
an easy, and usually, I'm the one that thinks up how to do some of these things, and it's always easier if there's a model. And I haven't seen an instrument that would necessarily, we'd have to have a subcommittee, probably.
And
Take a look at
Yeah.
appropriate, and we, you know, and that could include also ways to access the community. I'm not volunteering, by the way. Because every time I say subcommittee, suddenly it's me. Yeah, okay.
And the other issue is that it creates a burden for management also, to say, please evaluate us. Well,
You know what, I would
not-
maybe take this
yeah.
section and put it off until after July 1st, because our new superintendent might have ideas,
yeah.
or might not, but, you know, that's something that I would like to
I
ask.
like that idea.
Oh, she's starting to leave the room.
Yeah, that's right.
She's going under the chair now.
Notice how we're shoveling the responsibility. I like that. Okay, yeah, let's wait on that.
I can imagine it's something that you might like, but I can't ask you yet, so.
No, I mean, I think it makes perfect sense to wait.
All right.
There's a whole bunch of things I think we should wait for.
So we'll discuss that one at a later
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
And part of the value of doing this evaluation of our governance handbook is what we're doing right now, talking about how things are working.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, let's take another 5 minutes. Maybe we can look at one more, which is the annual reorganization of the board. And this is something that I think we discussed briefly at our dedicated discussion session. Paul had proposed this language.
Actually, I had a comment on censure policy.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think we're there yet.
No, it
We
was.
just passed over.
Oh, we passed it, I'm
It was
sorry.
18 and there was nothing in red, so I skipped it, but I didn't mean to. So go ahead.
okay, go ahead.
Let's make censure
I got
policy
tired
the
of
last
asking
thing we do
about
then.
There used to be ethics is a big part of this, and there used to be a reference to the ethics training that we suggested for new board members, and that was in Protocol 1, and there was a reference, I think, to
Yes.
the protocol, I think it was Protocol 1 or 2, where we talk about ethics training for new board members, and that reference seems to be missing. It was here at one time.
Okay, so there are two references that we were using for new board members. One was the new information, and one was the ethics, an article on ethics, and the third was your website. And it is in here somewhere, so
Yeah.
it may be under orientation of new board.
Yes, it is. Protocol
Well,
1.
it is, but the reference to that is not here, and
Oh.
it used to be here. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, do you mean the reference to your website?
No, the reference to the protocol, which suggests that we do ethics training for new board members. It also gives the opportunity for existing board members to take the same ethics training. The school,
Oh, I didn't realize it was gone. Let's take a look.
What would you add then to this one, to 18?
I would just say what we said before, which was something to the effect of, let's see, in order to be able to.
Wait a minute, it says right there in the last bullet point, ethics training, which is encouraged but not required, can be accessed at the following website.
And where is that, what page?
On page 144?
But I think Alan is saying-
That sounds about what I'm saying is refer to that, reference that. When we're talking about ethics in the censure policy, we should go back to the ethics training that's provided. This is all about ethics. We should have some guidance
So can I make
for
a
ethics.
suggestion that we just put that
Yeah.
same language at the bottom of this as well?
Oh, sure,
Good.
that's fine.
I think it makes sense.
Also, sometime I think we should talk about all these appendices that have been added and how we incorporate them.
Well, yeah, there was some discussion
But there's
because,
a lot of valuable information there somehow.
right, well, Paul and I remember were bickering a little bit because I said I'd put it in these appendices and then he says he says it should be in a handbook, so I said then he should make it into a handbook. And he's not here to argue with me right now, so you're right. There are a number of good resources which we would want any new board member to have. We just need to figure out how most effectively
Right.
to include those in the handbook.
And I don't think we can do that tonight, but that's an action item for the future, I think.
Sure. So anyway, I agree with Ron's point, to just take that same statement
Good.
and add it there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And put it everywhere it
Okay,
belongs.
so the
yeah.
final
So the
bullet from
last
item
bullet
1.
point in point number 1 would make sense.
And it'll
Thank you.
go, it's above the word protocol, I guess is where it would go here.
Right.
That's all right, okay. All right, great. Now, there's more to do. We'll put this on a future agenda to continue. I think we want to have a good discussion about the procedures for reorganization.
Yeah, and it'd be good to have Paul here as well, because his comments.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
it's his idea, so.
Yeah, I mean,
given the
I
time.
remember the discussion. I'm sorry, somebody talking.
I was just saying, given the time, we should move on, but why don't you finish your comment?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I've been on the board for a long time already. And sometimes when we're electing new officers, it's like one person gets nominated and it's like, okay, we take a vote. No, we have to go through all the nominations and vote on each one. And that's, I think, what Paul's point is. I
Yeah.
mean, this is sort of a lengthy way of saying that, but it's fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
You
It's
know, we
fine.
have to understand that, you know, the first person who gets nominated isn't the first, you know, that's going to
Right.
be the vote.
It shouldn't be a race to speak. The
Yeah,
first person
I'm
to
also
speak.
in agreement
I've
with
been
it.
guilty of that once, so,
Yeah.
you know, I said, I nominate.
So, yeah, I'm in
All right.
agreement with it as well, but we can wait on it.
We can wait on it.
Have
Yeah.
further discussion, yeah.
Okay. Great, so that brings us to the second discussion item, which is the parcel tax draft ballot measure language. We're not approving the language tonight, we're just looking at the draft and recommending changes or
Page number?
crafting it differently. So page 172 for the draft language.
Got it.
Comments, suggestions? Go ahead, Pat.
Okay, so I was looking at the language, and I seem to remember that some of the particular points, the specific language that was included, for example, math, advanced courses in math, science, and technology, were included because they were of interest to the community, but also because they polled well. And so I did notice in looking at that language that it does emphasize the STEM fields. And so I was wondering if we wouldn't want to add just one statement in there, like the humanities, to include. So the reason why I'm not, my iPad is still trying to catch up. Oh, here we are. Okay, so it says,
Did you count words?
yeah, so, are we limited on?
75 words, you know.
Right, okay, so that may be it. So I may need to count that, but it said, for and continue funding for select courses in math, science, technology, art, music, library services, blah, blah, blah. So there has been, you know, our community is definitely committed to music, to the library services, to advanced courses in science and math, but I think there has been a lot of discussion at the high school lately, and I think in the community in general, that we are committed to advanced coursework in the humanities as well. So I was going to suggest adding it, except I forgot about the 75 word, so I'd have to look,
Yeah.
I have to count.
Yeah, it's curious that we just put some things in and not others.
But I think we put in things that
But
pull.
art, music, and libraries, because those are things that get pulled all the time.
Right, but I specifically remember that math, science, and technology polled well in the community, and that's part of the reason why they're there. However, I feel I would like, you know, I'm open to discussion, and I raise it as discussion, that I think as in the community and in our commitment to students and in our commitment to giving a good education, I think that it would be fair to put in humanities as well, unless we don't have enough words for it.
No, I mean, if you can figure out a way to rewrite it.
Okay, for select courses in math, science, technology, comma, the humanities, comma, art, music, that's all you'd add. You'd add two. You had 2 words.
Somebody want to count?
Okay,
I don't.
Well, it's currently 80 words.
Actually, it's currently,
Please.
Yeah,
I didn't see you
Come
there.
on.
we didn't see you there, Teresa.
Maybe there's a way that people count words that,
Yeah.
This is your show. I have a word I want to change.
only one.
Yeah.
So I'm Teresa Geringer with Tramutola. Good to see you again. And if you counted
word for word. It is 80, but if you count it the way that the Alameda County Registrar of Voters counts it, it is exactly 75.
I see.
And so certain hyphenated words give you one word. Albany Unified School District gives you, counts as one word. So there are different little...
Art/music is...
no, actually it's two, and I took the slash out and put a comma just because I like them as two separate things. But in terms of my own revisiting it as I would look at it, the other weird thing is that the $ in 278 counts as a word. But so we have a cheat sheet, if you will, a guide that tells us exactly how the county will count these, and then I run them by the county as well, and they graciously, patiently count through every revision to make sure that we're right at 75.
Am I correct that the low-income exemption is no longer a legal exemption and that we can't offer it?
I did talk to Harold Freeman at Lozano Smith, and we have a way to word that, but the low-income exemption, the way that it is there, is not a legal, even though it was in your last ballot statement, we would recommend taking it out.
Okay, so that saves
and
one.
Harold was gone last week before we sent this to you.
Right.
So.
But you'll need to replace
But
it
on the
with...
humanities, no, go ahead.
Replace it with the word humanities.
No,
No,
but
no.
I thought that you indicated that legal counsel said they had other language which they could include.
Actually, yes, we discussed today other language that would allow it to include senior and disabled / low-income exemption. So it's basically the SSDI exemption.
Yeah, well,
It's
that's-
not specifically just low income. And so to be technically accurate, that's how you would word it, not just low income.
Well, that's very important. So I step back, but just know that members of the community and most of us care deeply about the humanities, literature, foreign languages as well. So, but if it doesn't fit in, we know it's there.
There are other
Correct.
things people care about. Maybe Alan has one that he'd like to mention. I see him chomping at the
So
bit.
something that didn't appear in the survey, in the polling language, and I was expressed concern about it at the February meeting, was the lack of career technology in the poll. Career technology has been recommended by the high school instructional improvement committee, the site council. Administrators have come up with program. It didn't poll because it wasn't polled, so I think it would poll well, and I would like to see career technology in the language as well if we're going to be able to add.
Okay, and so one of the areas where it does pick up on that in the poll, and maybe not as direct as career technical education, is in the area of to prepare students, to provide the courses to prepare students for 21st college and 21st century careers, and that language polled very high. It's one of the positive arguments that polls in there. And so if we'll look at all the words we want to add and words that we might be able to take out, and we'll see how to do that. So it was actually in there in a not very direct
and it
way.
polled high, I expect it would. So
It pulled high
thank
on
you
a positive
confirming.
argument. Yeah, we all want to prepare our kids, and it's gone beyond in the last several years, beyond college. It's to prepare them for life and for careers. And so recognizing that all students, go in different directions and have many opportunities.
So I'm
Thank you.
assuming we'll be voting on the language at the next school board meeting, or?
So if I might,
Yeah,
sorry,
do you know the
John.
timeline for the-
President Knight.
Yes.
So the timeline will be that tonight you will discuss the ballot statement, look at ways you want to tweak our ballot question technically, look at ways that you might want to tweak it or add to it, and then Harold Freeman with Lozano Smith and I will work together to bring back the draft resolution at the next meeting, which will also include the ballot statement. It will include all of the whereases, the full text, the changes to the resolution that need to take place because of the Barricus ruling and any exemption language that may be in, so it won't be the exact language that you had last time. And then that will be an opportunity for you to have a first reading and discussion of that document. And then the plan would be to keep on track with people who Remember, originally I had created a timeline that had us looking at a June 10th. We're looking at May 27th.
Right.
Is that right? Yes. Looking at coming back and being able to approve the resolution to call for the election in November at that time. Your deadline isn't until August, but this will give you the opportunity to let your committee, know and get running on that. You can officially file July 14th, and so you'll be able to, someone over the summer, probably Jackie, will be filing that, for you with the county elections office.
Ron. go
So
ahead.
the one thing that I think really needs to be changed, and if I remember from the first ballot measure a zillion years ago, I don't think it's our goal to attract and retain qualified teachers. I think it's our goal to attract and retain exceptional teachers. And I think there was a major point on that last time around.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Exceptional.
Qualified is qualified. No, no.
I think
That's
all our
not-
teachers
that's
are
not gonna poll
qualified.
us.
That's not, right,
I agree.
right.
Okay.
And we have teachers
That was
and
easy.
counselors.
I don't have to argue.
I want to represent something that Paul Black emailed to me, and his concern is if we put all of this language in, are we overpromising? Because in the end, $278 per parcel per year brings in, it's going to end up bringing us, I think we had the number 1.2 million or something like that. Can we really even promise all of this for that amount of money? It's to help, and it all helps, and every dollar helps, but his concern was, are we over-promising? And I'll just throw that out there for folks to,
And that came out last time around because we went into a recession.
yeah,
Big recession, and, everybody was cutting.
yeah.
And we really had a struggle to maintain what we said we were going to do. Didn't always.
That's right.
So did he have a suggestion for how to phrase the language, or was he making the point that we shouldn't include so much detail?
That maybe it would be better to focus on fewer things, but he didn't propose wording.
These are things, though, that we need to do, and we're going to have another discussion later, and I think we just have to be careful on how we spend money so that we can do all these things, because we always have.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, no, we should really keep all this in.
So if we continue to run a structural deficit, are all of these things at risk? I mean, essentially what we're saying is these are the things that are potentially at risk if we continue to run a structural deficit, and if that increases because we lose our parcel tax. What's your advice on that?
So my understanding is that the parcel tax dollars will maintain, the current program. There aren't it's not really a lot of additional dollars coming in.
Right.
And so what you're committing to here is basically maintaining what you have. And so I think that from the perspective, both as, looking at it as you're the consultant writing the language, but also I'll put my school board member hat on for a second. You're committing to what you're already doing. I don't think this is over-promising, with all due respect to Paul, and I'm glad that he asked. So, and as I think board member Rosenbaum, as you stated, then the economy changed, the last time, and during that time, you were trying to protect and restore. In the resolution, it says, so you have your parcel, you have your ballot statement, you have all of the intentions for the money that the voters are approving, and then there is a statement that if the budget completely changes, some of these things will have to be shifted, class sizes may go up. So your intention is what you are asking the voters to do, and that's what you will do as long as everything remains the same at the time. And so it doesn't give you a loophole, it just makes sure that you can manage your budget through whatever happens to come in the next several years post, this parcel tax being levied and extended.
Thanks. Alan?
So I have a question on language. This is primarily to maintain program and maybe add a little bit of program, but we have in here basically retain safe and well-maintained schools. Is any of this money for maintenance? So I think we could put career technology instead of.
We'd have to vote on that, and Alan, you can.
No, I'm just a suggestion.
Yeah.
We're not voting now.
I know.
It's a reasonable suggestion. Did you say that hyphenated words count as a single word? Because I believe well-maintained could be hyphenated. Probably should be.
Yes, but it is not a commonly recognized, hyphenated word.
So there's a list?
So, yeah, there's a list, and then sometimes they decide.
All right.
So, well-maintained is not one of those. But yes, it could be hyphenated.
Oh, that sounds like a list I'd find amusing.
So,
Yeah.
Ron, go ahead.
I mean, I think the
An
point that.
interpretation of said list.
The point that our committee's gonna, our community committee's gonna have to keep pounding at is if this doesn't pass, these are the things that might go away, or at least some of them. We've been hearing that over and over, and that's correct. So when the campaign happens, it's gonna be, if you want these things to stay, you better put up or shut up.
Which makes me ask about career technical education. We have quite a few programs. Are they potentially at risk? If we're going to add that to the list, and I support it, but if we want to add it to the list, it's something that we want to be able to say is potentially in jeopardy if we don't close the budget hole. Thank you.
President Knight, the LCFF, the new funding has set aside money specifically for career technical education. It's based on our high school ADA, and I think I reported that to the board previously. So we do have those funds set aside. They will support our ROP program. That funding is going away. We're currently talking to Contra Costa County Office of Education about using those funds to continue the ROP programs that we have. So we do have money set aside in the budget required from the state for career technical education.
Is it parity?
I'm sorry?
Is there parity?
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
Parity with RLP.
Correct. So, it's basically going to be a wash.
I forget that, that's what's paid for all those courses.
Yes.
About 13 courses at the high school?
Yes, 13 sections. Not 13 courses, but 13
13
sections.
I meant, yeah.
Right. And it also pays for the equipment and a lot of the other
That's a lot of money, too.
requirements for ROP and career tech ed.
So that wouldn't necessarily come out of the partial tax
Correct.
anyway.
Correct.
Hopefully that will make.
So
It's in law at the moment.
Right.
Seen that before.
Yeah.
So can I get a sense from everyone of what we definitely want to add, what we would like to add if we could, and what we could leave out?
Yeah, well,
Essentially,
we have to leave something out, yeah.
Teresa, would that help you? Would that kind of information help you craft the next version?
Can we hear from the public?
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, maybe before people say that, if you'd like to come up and say a few words, that'd be great. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. President Knight, board members, Rebecca Long. I am co-chairing the Community Parcel Tax Committee, and very excited to be at this stage of the process. We didn't have a whole lot of time to review this, but I think we do have a few reactions just to share. One is that the language doesn't use the term renewal anywhere. So it just talks about, levying a parcel tax at $278 a year. And I think, we have had some discussion, both with Teresa and Larry about, different ways of phrasing it. I think, you do run into the word cap, but I think something to consider. We did talk about at the last meeting, the increase above the current level is $119, and part of the rationale for recommending that is that that's less than a $10 a month increase. So, I think it's just something to consider, that for somebody who's not well-informed and might just be coming to this cold, they might think that they're paying now, a net increase of $278. The other piece that's not mentioned that was in the prior question is that there's no cost of living adjustment mentioned, and I haven't heard much discussion about that, but certainly we would like to see an annual inflation adjustment in the new measure so that we're not, losing purchasing power every year. So, I don't know that that's required to be in the question in order to be in the ordinance, but I think something to think about there. And then, let's see, what you guys were talking about, the different ways of maybe parts of this that you could change. I do recall in the poll that it was sort of striking how the keeping schools safe was really not a high priority for Albany, for those who were polled. And I think that's just a testament to the fact that people do feel like our schools are really safe. So, as you're thinking about, your word budget, I do think that keeping schools safe and well-maintained is maybe not something that is as much of a concern. And what else? I think it was a great suggestion about having exceptional teachers rather than just qualified. And I will just say, when I read maintain manageable class sizes, I think for some people that might come across as not complacent isn't the right word, but for some people who feel like they'd like to see class sizes come down a little bit, maintain might not be quite the right way to frame it.
Good point.
Can you think of another? Because I think you've made some really good points. Like with particularly with renewal, and then that particular word, we'll have to think of some specific.
We're going to have a meeting, and that would be a good time to tell everyone, you all, and anyone who is listening or watching. We are going to have another meeting of our committee next Monday at 7:30 at Marin to talk about all of this. So I think rather than trying to wordsmith it here, we'll definitely take a stab at least our recommendation to you all there. And I guess one last point I wanted to make is that it would be really helpful to be able to look at, how has the district spent Measure I funds to date? And I know there is an audit that's required to be submitted on that, and just to take stock each year, what's the revenue, how was it spent? But I think just to kind of be able to say, well, what are we doing? Clearly we're not funding every one of these things with this $1.3 million. That doesn't mean that I think all of these things aren't appropriate to include in the question, but I think it helps inform, just how we might phrase it and what the actual ordinance language should say. So thanks a lot for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, thank you very much.
For all your work, Rebecca.
So, with regard to, she had the specific question about the cost of living increase, so that would be something that I think you're going to address with our legal counsel?
Correct. If you are continuing the cost of living, the language about that will need to be in there, and the inflation, it should be in the ballot statement. People should know that. So that's something that the board had not.
We hadn't addressed that yet. So what's...
And the renew, Rebecca and I talked about that ahead of time, so I do
Right.
think that.
Something that we have to do with the wording on district levy temporary.
So we have ballot language as well as ballot arguments to cover some of these issues as well, don't we? I mean, the parcel tax committee can cover
Correct,
a
the
lot in
ballot
those ballot
correct.
arguments, which are not particularly word limited.
The point that Rebecca made or somebody made is
300
that
words and 250
not
words.
everybody, most people don't read those. A lot of people don't read them.
That's all I read. I don't read
Actually,
the stuff that lands on my front porch.
yeah. Actually, the 75-word ballot statement is what we consider to be the most important, because the people who pick up their pamphlet, on the way out the door, will read that.
Check.
And then the, argument in favor of the things that are in, the documents that are there in that pamphlet, easy to get to, are very important. And so working with, the campaign committee and any members of the district to craft those documents is also very important, we think, to the success of the election.
So can I ask a question for clarification? Are you needing some guidance from us as to whether we want to have the cost of living increase?
Well, in looking at your previous and correctly speaking, I would think that you would still want to do that. I haven't, heard the board have a discussion about that. If you would like to entertain language when we come back with Harold Freeman from Lozano Smith, we will put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right?
So can we have Harold here at the next meeting?
He will definitely be here at the next meeting.
And
because that's his whole, the resolution is, absolutely a combination of our two firms, but it's definitely the legal part of it.
Right.
We've had a lot of success working with Harold directly in the past. So.
Yep.
So the sense then from all of us is we'd like to have cost of living increase in there, because
I hadn't thought of it.
it does, Rebecca's point is that it will start to eat away, without that increase, we'll start to lose that buying power. And what is it indexed to? I don't remember what our current one is. There's a number that it depends on. It's not an automatic percentage per year.
No, there is a cost of living index.
It's based on the
It's an
index. Yeah,
Correct.
okay. Can I also?
Yeah, and it can be at, CPI and capped, and so we'll bring
Right.
back
CPI,
language to that.
Right, okay. Can I just say one quick thing and then get to you, Pat? On the class size, I guess my concern is that if we say we maintain manageable class size, fine, but if we say reduce class sizes in any way, that really is overpromising. There's nothing about this amount and what it's doing that's going to, by itself, allow us to reduce class sizes. It might keep them from going back up again. But I'm just a little concerned about putting that in.
And we don't have capacity really right now.
We also have a facilities issue with class size, so.
We'll be solving hopefully soon, but who knows?
Yeah, but it's not going to happen with this
No, not
money,
in this
so I
money,
feel
no.
like, this is, class size polls well, it's extremely important to a lot of people, but those people are going to vote for this anyway, I think, and I'm just thinking we shouldn't promise something that this ballot measure can't deliver. I'm suggesting removing reference to class size. That buys us 4 words, and we can put these other things in that we're talking about. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So,
Removing what?
Maintain manageable class size. And also keep schools safe and well-maintained. If we remove those 2 items, we can add humanities, we can add career technical education, we could probably, I don't know if we can fit all of this, but we could add the cost of living increase.
So you can choose to do all of those things, and, we will bring something back that does that. On the polling, I will, just point out, and you don't have to, you want it to be not only to resonate with voters, you want it to be realistic for the educational program that you're delivering, but the Keep Schools Safe and Well Managed did actually come, it was about the 4th item, I would not necessarily agree with this, but above keeping classroom technology up to date and above manageable class sizes. So shifting things around, recognizing the poll as a snapshot in time, these are, where the voters, the programs that resonated with your voters. So
can I make sure I understand you're saying that the safe and well-maintained polled above class size?
yes,
It did.
but I'm just,
Just a little bit,
just stating
or?
in the ballpark. All of these programs, so the important thing to, state is all the programs were in the 80s. Everybody wants everything that, they were asked to do. And so when you're getting into this, it's really about community, it's voter, what resonates with your voters, but it is also your community priorities and, the people that you represent. So in terms of that language and...
So Pat, go ahead.
Yeah, so I did have a question to ask Teresa, but I would like to give my opinion, and then I would like to hear back from the community group. I actually, and after listening to all this discussion, I actually honestly feel I would retract putting the humanities in, and I would prefer to maintain manageable class size. I do agree that we can't overpromise, but I feel like I have heard from many members of the community, and I myself, even though now my child is older, just feel that that's something that our community is committed to, and that makes a difference throughout the school. So that's just my opinion, but I'd be interested to see what the community committee says. And then,
That was the most packed board meeting we've had this year, was the one that dealt with class size, by far. Standing room out the door.
and as my son has gotten older, he has had to be in very, very large high school classes as well for various reasons. But so I just had a question of clarification. So I understand that the legal counsel and yourself will bring back some language about the cost of living increase, but I just wanted to ask, from your experience in the most of the ballot measures that you've seen, has there been some small phrasing about the cost of living in general?
Well, in your last.
Not just ours, I'm
Right.
talking about
Yeah.
general,
So for-
general parcel tax measures that have passed in California.
Right, and usually the language is as simple in the ballot statement as a cost of living adjustment.
Okay.
Or an adjustment for inflation, and then the full detail of the cost of living, whether it's capped at 3%, whatever, and tied to the CPI, is in the full language of the resolution.
So to make sure I understand, then you're saying yes?
Yes.
That most California parcel tax measures which have passed have a small mention of it and then more elaboration in a different section?
I would say that all the ones that I have experience with that have a cost of living adjustment have something about it in the 75-word ballot statement.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel you have all you need from us at this point to go on and craft something new? Do you have further?
Actually, I think that we can do that. And then Rebecca, they have invited us also to attend the meeting on Monday, and if that works out, we will do that and take the input from the committee as well.
Wonderful.
So it might be
Okay.
helpful if we see several different versions and with recommendations from you and from the committee.
At our next meeting?
Yeah.
Several versions to
So that we can
consider.
see how they lay out.
Yeah. Is
Okay.
that possible? Is that
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will come back with the resolution, with Harold Freeman from Lozano Smith, the full resolution and the ballot statement, and it's the board's desire to have, if in fact there are two different, if there is one agreed upon one, is that okay with you as well? Or if you want, do you want alternate ones, just in case? We would like to recommend one that we think is the
Right.
best one, so we
Right,
can bring
I
an
think the
alternate.
recommendation would be appreciated, maybe if other versions were in there. Is that what you're proposing?
I mean, I think
Options?
Just seeing, what does it look like with the cost of living index in it? What does it look like? Because then something's going to have to come out. So just
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
We'll come back with a recommendation. And,
But at least a recommendation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's good.
Great.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
Thank you. All right, we're on to review and action items, and I'm going to propose a change in order of these items. We have folks here who have been eagerly,
Yeah,
patiently,
been
very patiently
waiting
waiting
patiently,
for
yeah.
item D, these job descriptions, and if we could just, with the agreement of the board, move that first.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's a lovely
All right.
idea.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
let's do that. We'll go to item 9D, approve job descriptions, mental health supervisor, mental health intern, and alternative education coordinator.
As the board knows, we've been fortunate to be able to offer some mental health services to our students from pre-K all the way up through high school. We do employ two mental health coordinators, a .8 and a .2, who work at the secondary level. But our elementary mental health program has been entirely voluntary, with the exception of the superb services from Joanne Weil, who has coordinated and supervised that program. So in looking at what's been offered in the past and working with both Joanne and her and the superintendent, we decided that it might be helpful to formalize these positions. So we've written job descriptions to describe both the duties and responsibilities of a mental health intern and the duties and responsibilities of a mental health supervisor. And Joanne is here tonight to answer any more technical questions that you might have that I am unable to answer, because I work very closely with Joanne to provide these services. We provide interns at all of our elementary schools and at the Children's Center. And we also provide interns at the secondary level, both at all three schools, at the middle school, Albany High, and McGregor. And those interns have to be supervised by appropriately credentialed and licensed individuals, and that's what the clinical supervisors have done. In the past, we've been very fortunate to have a lot of community volunteers who are highly qualified, but it is a lot of work on their behalf, and so we have proposed a small compensation for them. It's basically less than the going rate. It's $100 an hour for up to 5 meetings a month. So it's up to $500 a month for 9 months. I don't know if you have any questions. And then I'll move to the alternative ed coordinator later, but this is about the mental health.
Okay.
Sure.
Questions? Alan?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Joanne for the very reasonable fees that she's been charging for her services, and now we have an opportunity to do the same for some of our supervisors of interns. And I think it makes this very valuable program much more sustainable. We're going to keep good people. This doesn't probably provide enough money for their as a profession, as a professional, but it does recognize their contributions, I think, and I hope they appreciate this. I certainly appreciate the contributions that you've been making to our students. Hortensia Chang is here, one of your supervisors, extremely well qualified, and we're so lucky to have her as well as the other supervisors that have volunteered. I'm just wondering, how many interns will this sponsor?
This will be 12 interns. And we have 8 at the preschool, elementary school level, and then that would allow for 3 to 4 in the middle school and the 2 high schools.
So that's $12,000.
12 interns.
What?
12 interns at $1,000 a year.
Or $12,000.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a real bargain.
Well, Alan just took away anything I would have said about this. I do want to give a chance to Hortensia to speak because she's an example of the kind of experienced supervisor we've been able to draw into the program, and she's given us 3 years of service unpaid. And she has 30 years of experience at City College in San Francisco working with disabled students, 11 years at the Wright Institute, 6 years at the West Coast Children's Center, and then, as I mentioned earlier, 3 years with us in the Albany School District. And she's a licensed psychologist who meets with interns in our program. Hortensia.
So I just have one question, Joanne, before Hortensia comes up. I know how much you get from us a year, and it's negligible considering what you do. Will you be supervising all these folks, or because we have a full-time administrator who supervises at the high school, middle school, which is Shelley Ball. Will you be sharing that
The idea is that each of the supervisors has one intern, except Hortensia has been good enough to actually supervise 2 at one time.
Oh, okay.
And then this program has such good teachers in it that we've actually been able to draw students from the Smith College School of Social Work, which is one of the best social work schools in the country. And so because I'm a licensed clinical social worker, I will be supervising 2 interns that we're getting from Smith College. So we've actually doubled our interns, and Hortensia may be the other supervisor. So I kind of spread my time in many ways.
And coordinating.
And Lynn Sasso is a supervisor as well. We just
Mary Lynn Sasso, you approved her independent contractor job this evening, and she coordinates the group program and came from the Richmond School District, and we have groups on changing families. She's been doing groups at the Marin School, helping with some of the issues that have to do with girls kind of icing out other girls in the classroom. And so the principals and the teachers actually come to us and they say, these are the current issues, help. Yeah. And so we come in as consultants, or we actually do groups in the classrooms at actually all the schools. So, Hortensia.
Hortensia, thank you for waiting.
Yeah, sorry about that, Hortensia.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I just wanted to let you know how fortunate we have to have an excellent team here in Albany. And I want to let you know that Joanne and I are the only Albany residents. All the other supervisors and volunteers come from Berkeley. Our consultant, Audrey Dunn, is a fantastic woman who has really held our program together clinically. And she comes from San Francisco once a month to be a consultant. And she's been doing it for 2 years. And so we're extremely fortunate to have all these people come to us and volunteer and willing to help in the school. And working with children has been my career. If you add up all the years, I actually am a lot older than I look. I'm Chinese.
We had that discussion.
You know, I work primarily with young adults and adults, and as you may know from personal or vicarious experience, it takes a lot of work to work with adults to bring about some changes. But children are so amazingly malleable that we can have an impact. I'm always amazed working with children in foster care, West Coast Children's Center, and here, how quickly they can transform and have long-term impact. So I think it's very wise for us to invest early. And when we start the year, we have a wait list. Our entrants hit the ground running. You know, we are full load from the very beginning, and then we have a wait list for the rest of the year. So there's a tremendous demand for the services, and I think the teachers and the principals realize that. So I'm very excited to do this work. So my husband said, aren't you retired now? And I said, hey, I'll do 2 hours a week. But it's very fulfilling and it's wonderful, and very glad to be doing this work. And please, if you have any questions or concerns, I'll be happy to talk to you at any point. But as a resident of Albany, I want to let you know that this is money well invested, and we're below market value.
Thank you.
Further questions? Pat?
Well, I had a chance to talk to Hortensia earlier. I think that I would just echo and support what Alan said, which is that we are very, very grateful for your volunteerism and for your support, and particularly to know that mental health services are reaching our younger children. And, it's very, very, I worried that it might be a tenuous program because, the money was coming from grants and so forth. So, I'm glad to learn more about it. And I would actually like to know even more about it. So at some point, I would love to have, like you mentioned, this person who has been volunteering for years. I would love to have a list of the different people who have been volunteering for a while. In the past, a few years ago, the board wrote some thank yous. We wanted to recognize people, and I would like to know again, like who are regular contributors to your program, their names and maybe their affiliations. If it's not too much trouble for you to let us know.
We'll be happy
We can
to
absolutely do that.
I think we were invited once to come here to express your gratitude or whatever. But, a lot of these people also work, they're in private practices.
Right.
I think I'm the only one who's retired.
Right, so even, but just for us to know, and then occasionally to be able to write a thank you or to do something that would be appropriate, because we're very, very grateful.
A great idea.
For the services. And then I just had a practical question. Sometimes members of the community, come to me asking about mental health services that are available and so forth, and frankly, I get a little confused because I'm not sure, do you collaborate a little bit with the middle and high school mental health coordinator, Shelley Ball, as well? Do you have any interaction? So you do. So there is communication back and forth. But one easy way for me to sort of divide it for people that come to me with inquiries is by age, though, right? By school affiliation, right? Okay.
Yes, and then, for example, when the kids finish elementary school, we do contact in terms of follow-up for referrals, when they go to junior high school. So we do
communicate with Shelley and with her staff. Okay.
At the end of the year, we do make some plans for future referrals and contacts.
Great.
And
okay. So
Joanne does a lot of that.
Great. I just wanted to understand that a little bit better. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for helping to provide the healthy environment that our students need to really learn. It's probably more important than having a high IQ.
Yes.
I mean, that's part of, it's been a committed part of our strategic plan, the social and emotional well-being and health of our children. And this is something that resonates with the Albany community. And it's something that, it's not just talk, it's something that we've maintained for a very long time, so we're very proud to see the commitment and the resources.
Great.
I mean, speaking of which, I remember when the very first day we started the mental health program, because I was involved in that pretty intimately. And that's just to see how much it's grown since the first day we met Shelley Ball, which came out of a community meeting. And that it's grown to this extent, and it's just amazing, because it's something that in my whole career I've been committed to, and it's very hard to make it happen in a school district. And the community, and Joanne, particularly you and Hortensia, have been just a huge part of making that grow. And so I'm just personally grateful.
Yeah.
So we're glad you're making time for us in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you.
By all means, thank you. Now, there are 3 job descriptions here,
Correct.
so we should probably
So
talk about
the third one
unless
is-
there is anything further on this. Okay.
I'm thinking maybe, I'd like to separate these 2 job descriptions from the last one.
Vote on them separately?
Yeah.
Why don't we go ahead and, we can
Is
do that. We can vote on
reasonable?
these 2. I think so.
I don't
Yeah,
see
oh,
why
yeah.
I
not.
don't see
Yeah.
why. So, okay, so then, would you like to make the motion?
Yeah, so I'll move that we approve the job descriptions for mental health intern and mental health clinical supervisor.
Second.
Okay, so we're approving only 2 of the job descriptions here, mental health intern and mental health clinical supervisor with this motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 So that's unanimous. We have a 3rd job description.
Yes, that is the coordinator for alternative education. It is comprised of the .6 McGregor High School principal position that was funded last year, which I currently provide this year. And then we moved .4 of an FTE from the Flex program, which we have funded this year at .6, to make this a full-time position. There was a number of thoughts behind that. One is we wanted to make sure we got the most highly qualified candidate, and it's more easy to recruit and attract full-time work than it is for a .6 administrator. So we added some additional duties to this position as well. They would be responsible for the Flex program, which is an intervention program at the high school, home hospital instruction, and I wrote it a little more broadly because I didn't want to name programs specifically in the job description. So I worked with Cynthia Attia on the language, and we also pulled from other districts, but I basically wrote it for intervention district-wide, so that this event, we'd like to start at the high school, at least with this individual, and start increasing the number of interventions that are available at the high school to support our students. So that's the thinking and the funding behind this position.
You included, I see SARB and SART, which now we're not using acronyms, School Attendance
Oh,
Review
I
Board.
apologize.
School of Attendance Review Team.
Yes.
See, I still remember.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So, I sent you a number of questions, and I
You did.
really appreciate you clarifying things because they weren't in the original descriptions of, your original stuff. My main concerns are that we've been told for several years that the number of students, and Alan and I have tried to say, no, that can't be true, but the number of students that we need to provide McGregor's for has been dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. Therefore, we no longer needed certain things, including a secretary and a full-time administrator, and and in the past, the administrators played different roles. They've always been, for example, Barry Shapiro
Yes.
played the role of not only running the McGregor program, but running the adult school. Impossible, and Barry and I were friends, especially when I was in the high school, and I could see the level of frustration he had. It was crazy. So my concerns that I expressed were in a time when we're looking to pass a parcel tax. I'm not sure how well received it would be in the public to spend our money at this particular point on a full-time administrator, although I understand much more clearly now your rationale. I still, I was reticent. I also, when I was getting worked up, I talked about bait and switch because we've been hearing we don't need these services, we don't need these services, now we do need these services. And I know you spent time with McGregor, so you've seen what others of us in this district have seen in other districts. My other concern is that we have a new superintendent coming in, and at least two of us saw the program, the continuation program in Dublin. And I'm not sure, again, what kind of ideas a new superintendent would bring to the board and bring to the public as far as what the reality of a continuation program should look like. It was incredibly impressive. And I've been, working in the schools for 40 years. It was just the best continuation. I've never seen a program that ran like that. Three of us in this room were there, so Kerry can say the same thing. So I'm sort of and we don't know what the numbers will be next year. We don't know where we're going to be housing McGregor in the future. I would love to see a program built like the one we saw in Dublin. So, I'm sort of the bent to hold off until we see the need, see how many students we've maintained this year. We can probably maintain next year or add, what we think is necessary as we see where we are. I just think we're jumping the gun.
Okay.
And it's a big amount of money. We're going to spend an administrative salary,
Yes.
but yet we don't have a clerical person.
Go ahead.
So I had those questions too, because I misunderstood. I didn't realize that you were trying to combine, at first I thought it was a full-time administrator for just the continuation program, and that confused me. But then I finally understood after, that exchange of emails that it is combining the Flex program, which then, I went from thinking that's a huge amount of money on such a small administrator to thinking that's a really difficult job. Especially if the Flex program expands and then there's no clerical person. So I kind of have gone through some changes in my thinking about this, and I have in mind that the McGregor program is only temporarily housed for 1 year at the high school, so it's kind of a stopgap measure. So the main thing is, of course, I want the students who need the support to have the support that they need, both in the Flex program and in the McGregor program. So after I understood that there were these two, that they were going to be combined, I felt more comfortable with it because I felt that, they're going to be in this transition. They're trying to expand the Flex program. Students need some support. And so that's my main concern about this coming year, is that in a program in flux like this, we need to give this very vulnerable population the support that they need. So by holding off, did you mean like not hiring anyone?
No, if you're going to spend money, and I've brought this up before, we have a 0.4 counselor. Well, that's not enough support for having a person who's not there constantly for these students who have those needs. I would put the money into having a 1.0 counselor dedicated to that population, to McGregor and to Flex. It seems like the support is more important than the administration at this point. And hire a freaking secretary.
So, if I might, being the current site administrator at McGregor, and I spend at least 26 hours a week at McGregor, I don't get a whole lot of my other duties done because these are very high-need students.
Right.
I am in all of the classrooms every day. I do a variety of things. I provide clerical support when my 3-hour secretary is not there. I serve a snack to the students 1 to 2 times a day. I do a variety of things, master of nothing, master of all. But anyway, so one of the reasons we're bringing it to you now is that's okay. It's part of the job, and I really enjoy working with the students and the staff. But part of the reason we brought it to you now, even though we know we have a new superintendent coming in, and if I had my perfect crystal ball, we would wait. If we wait, then the best candidates will have gone somewhere else, and we will not have good candidates for this position. So I'm concerned that we're already too late to the game for this if we're going to move in this direction. Yes, we're moving McGregor to the high school, and yes, the high school has 3 administrators, a principal and a vice principal. But it's a temporary move at this time. You have not made a decision about whether it would stay at the high school or move to another location, like back to where it currently is located in a new building. If we're going to make this a successful program and provide the kind of support that the students and the staff need, I really believe that they need somebody other than the 3 administrators who are busy taking care of Albany High School issues and all of the things that go on at that high school, all of the sports, the clubs, the student activities, on top of running an educational institution. And, Albany High is a great place. But adding, I believe, more students, we currently have about 20 students. I've just gotten a couple more, but they're only taking 1 class with us. But we're working right now with the high school counselors on identifying those current sophomores and juniors who are going to need credit recovery. And I believe that for the foreseeable future, we are always going to need a credit recovery program of some kind, whether it's a standalone school like McGregor, whether it's a school within a school and we keep it at Albany High. That's a decision to be made later. But we're always going to need this kind of program, unfortunately, until we get a full array of interventions, early interventions put into place so students don't fall 40, 60, 80 credits behind and need a full-blown credit recovery program. But we aren't ready for that yet. We don't have those supports and interventions in place. So McGregor is one, and Flex now, but McGregor has been, for this district, kind of a safe hold for those kids who, the round pegs who don't fit in the square holes. And it's not that and I'll just speak for my current kids, it's not that they're not smart. It's not that they're not capable. And one-on-one, they're really lovely people. But the comprehensive high school just doesn't work for them for whatever reason. I have one student who school isn't for him.
And that was the rationale for at least 2 of us.
I hear you.
To not move that program.
I understand.
To where they're going to be alienated and,
And that's exactly why I've worked with Dr. Barone and staff to identify a place that's kind of separate. It's in a
Kind of.
Well, we did the best we could with the facilities.
Temporary.
Classroom 18.
So I actually, I changed from having the objections because I realized the reality of students having to be there. I realized that we have this flex program which has potential to serve both the population that you're talking about and other students.
Yes.
And that if you get a good administrator, that person would be challenged. Well, they would be very challenged because they have 2 somewhat separate, some intersecting program, but they might be able to evolve into what the staff decides will be most effective for the student population next.
Right.
So that's why once I understood it, I am supportive of it, although I am still somewhat concerned about the clerical issues. So I hope that staff will be also looking into how much support is going to be needed.
I would be much more comfortable with this position if it came with a full-time counselor, because counseling is nearest and dearest to my heart, especially for this population.
We did add a point 2. So we did add a point.
I said full-time.
Yes, sir. Okay.
That's just my wish list.
So you added point 2 to make it equal point 4.
No, there is a current point 4 assigned to McGregor.
Okay.
Which is carrying forward for next year. And then we added a point 2 at-risk counselor for next year also. I spoke with Cynthia this morning, and it will be flying, I believe, next week.
Okay, so I think that's great. I think for a temporary solution and the idea of trying to get a highly qualified person makes absolute sense for now. I do understand that it's not an ideal situation, that we might have new ideas coming in, but there'll be natural transition. It's only possibly a 1-year, stopgap measure.
Well, I have 2 more questions then.
Sure.
What's the dollar amount? I know.
I
asked you
asked.
to bring it.
The schedule,
Yeah.
yeah.
I appreciate it. If you give me a heads up, I'll bring you the information.
I asked you.
So we placed it on the current continuation high school salary schedule, which has a range of 111,000 through 125,000. And remember, the individual pays their own benefits, so there's no benefit package attached to this salary.
Thank you. The other half is, speaking of getting the most highly qualified person, it's late already.
Yes.
So, I mean, most of the administrators that I know who are out looking for jobs have already been picked up. Best people are picked up in February and March.
Well, I looked at the
That's
most
how we
recent
got our
EdJoin.
superintendent.
The most recent EdJoin and the most recent EdCal, and EdCal is a publication of the Association of California School
I've shared
Administrators.
it with
Okay. So, and there are lots of openings being advertised there right now. So I don't think we're too late. I don't think it's the end of June and, nobody's, school's out.
The last EdCal was about 3 times the normal size. 'Cause
Right. So I think we're in the mix, is what I would say.
Well, even earlier would have been better, but nonetheless, we need, I feel committed that we need a good person for next year, someone who's up for a challenge, someone who might be able to see those two programs and the potential and the ways in which they could go. That is a challenging position.
Yes, it is.
But we need somebody to serve the students. We definitely do.
But are we going to go out and tell the public we're spending $115,000?
But it doesn't have to be presented in that fashion. The Flex program is a very interesting program which serves many students, and it's a full-time position, so you'll be partially serving students who maybe the general public is not as interested in, even though we are. All right, but the entire position will also serve the larger population, because the Flex program has the potential to serve students from both ends of the spectrum.
Exactly.
And all over. So I think you can sell it.
Helen hasn't had his hand up. I'm shocked.
I'm sure it's
I want to
coming.
hear from you.
Okay, I'm ready.
You're
So
on.
how many flex students would we be serving? You say about 20 McGregor kids, and then how many flex?
Well, I'm expecting there to be around 40 students
For McGregor.
for McGregor next year. I don't have
Yeah, I
that, but
read
you
that.
can't quote me because I don't have the
WGSA
numbers
does,
from
yeah.
the counselors yet. So they're starting to put those lists together for me right now. As far as flex, it depends on how you define how many students. There's the tutoring aspect of it.
Right.
There is the Aventa, the online learning, that serves about 30 students at a time, and those students have to be monitored every week. And we found that Michelle Azelstein, who's been doing that, has been doing a really wonderful job about staying on top of those students to make sure they're logging on.
Yeah.
She monitors how many hours they are, how they're progressing in that class, whatever class they're taking. She meets with them if they start to slack off or they're in danger of being kicked out, because we have plenty of other students who could use that option. Yes, the
Right.
seats. So definitely, we're keeping the 30 Aventa seats. So those 30 seats right there are 30 students. And that is actually more students, because once a student finishes a course, we can put someone else in that spot. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the same student. Then as far as the tutoring goes, I don't have recent numbers from her, but there's the whole recruitment of the high school tutors, and then the identification of which students need and will accept the tutoring, the peer tutoring, basically, from that. So I can't give you an exact number, but I can get you how many have been served so far this year.
Well, it sounds as though it could approach 100 total.
It could.
But how many hours does an Adventist student sit in that seat?
Well, they're supposed to do it when they're not in school. And then the flex office is open certain hours where they can come in and work on a computer, and they can have dedicated time. But they can also work at home or at the library, wherever they have online access.
And this is the flex is a relatively new program.
This is
as
the first
well.
year.
And we have McGregor's coming into a new environment
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Returning actually to a problematic environment.
I've talked to
Yeah.
my juniors,
Yeah.
most of whom, not all, but most of whom are interested in going to the high school full-time. next year, but not giving up some of their McGregor classes. I have one who's really not interested in returning to the high school, but I'm hoping that she'll graduate this year. She's working on graduating early.
So I see a lot of academic and career advantages to returning to the high school and some of the more rigorous academic programs that are available at the high school. And I'm really concerned about the sort of unexpected challenges that we're going to see in this transition.
I'm sure there's something we haven't anticipated.
And I think we need to overcompensate somewhat for what you're currently doing. And if you're adding flex to this, I'm with Ron on his concerns about somehow adding more counseling in this. I know counseling supervision is written in here, but if this person is capable of, doing the sort of in-depth counseling that some of these kids are going to need, they're just an administrator. I have problems. If you get the right person, I think they're capable of stepping in. But
It's all about the right people.
yeah,
I mean,
sure
it really
is.
is. Teachers, administrators, classified, it's all about the right people and the right job.
That's right.
So I basically support this proposal, and I have the concerns and reservations that Ron does. But overall, I think this is what is needed, and I really appreciate you making the effort to provide.
I need to
this
interrupt
proposal.
briefly. It's 9:30. We have 30 more minutes of business to conduct this evening. So I'd like to ask for a motion to extend the meeting.
30 minutes?
I'll move to extend the meeting 20 minutes.
Okay, you have to
I'll
promise
second.
to hurry.
I'll second.
Yeah.
I'll second.
All right. The motion, the meeting is extended 20 minutes.
One more question. Has the idea of somebody on special assignment been,
You mean like a teacher on special assignment?
or a counselor on special assignment, who would be able to provide administrative duties, as we did with the middle school? We had a teacher on special assignment who did administrative duties 2 years ago, Deborah Brill.
Oh, she did. She was half-time assistant principal and half-time teacher on special assignment.
Yep.
She's that special talent we're looking for.
I was going to say, she's an amazing individual.
Yes.
And
We have a lot of
if I
amazing
could clone her, I'd be
individuals.
happy to do that. But
I just wondered if it's been, obviously it hasn't been talked about.
not that particular arrangement. A counselor, well, that person would have to have an administrative credential and then also a PPS, a counseling credential, and that's not something that we thought of.
But is that a cost difference significant between what you're proposing?
It's not going to be significant. There would be some cost savings, I would imagine, if you make them a half-time administrator
Right,
and a
but how-
half-time counselor. But I don't know how
just-
they.
that's just- I'm-
No, I appreciate it, Ron. I just don't know how they would do that job. I do a little bit of counseling with the McGregor students,
Yeah.
clearly, but I'm not a credentialed counselor, so I do kind of that administrative piece. And the counselor, Diane Peterson, she's kind of our cheerleader. I make her the cheerleader. Go tell those kids they can do this. Get the rah-rah, and I'm kind of a little
I
hammer.
think
It's
we're
like, "Come on, guys."
micromanaging a little
Yeah.
bit.
No, it was just a question. It wasn't management. I'm not
Okay.
telling you what to do.
Okay, so.
Are we prepared to make a motion on this item?
I move to approve the proposal for an alternative education coordinator.
I second.
Roll call.
Could we have a roll call vote, please, Jackie?
Student Board Member Chen?
Aye.
Student Board Member Lee?
Aye.
Member Rosenbaum?
No.
Member Lowe?
Aye.
Vice President Maris?
Aye.
President Knight?
Aye. So
Just my humble opinion.
your humble opinion.
Thank you
So
for expressing it.
the
Valuable.
job description has been approved.
Thank you.
Okay, we got 20 more minutes.
We have
Let's
20
move
minutes. We're
forward.
moving
Thank you for your input.
to, we're actually on item A, although we've completed D&E in review and action. So this is a second reading,
Right.
and so I'm hoping this is easy to adopt the proposed textbook for the social studies program in government.
Since we've talked about it and looked at it, I will move that we adopt the textbook.
I'll second. Very good textbook. Look through it. I'll second.
All in favor?
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. All in favor of approving the textbook adoption for social studies?
Aye.
Aye. So that's been approved. You didn't
Thank
have
you.
to say a word.
I didn't have to say a word.
We have an independent contractor agreement for Howard McNenny Architectural Services at the middle school. Do you have a description for us other than what's in here?
Well, as you know, we are space poor at the moment, especially with the demolition of the current San Gabriel campus. So the middle school is very space challenged, so we're going to be needing to put some portables, and right now they're scheduled to go in what's now the teacher's parking lot. And so Mr. McNenny would provide all of the architectural drawings and all of the necessary documents that we need to get approval for those.
It's my understanding that he has experience doing that previously in the
That's
district?
also my understanding.
Yeah, that's what I
We
thought.
passed an agreement with him last board meeting as well, I believe, in the minutes. And he's worked with us over the years.
That's my understanding.
Times he's a parent, ex-parent as well. I'll move that we approve the independent contractor agreement with Howard McNenny.
I'll second.
All in favor of approving the contractor agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
So that's approved unanimously. Item C is a change order with the Vista Environmental Consultants for the San Gabriel site.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just trying to
Is that why
scroll
poor
down to
Don
the...
has stayed here
Yeah,
this whole time?
Don's been waiting.
Well, he's there in case you have really technical details about it, but since
Poor
he's
Don.
here,
They
we'll
might
give
as
him an
well.
opportunity to explain it. Because I asked him, when I found out I was chairing or representing the superintendent tonight, I did ask him a few questions about this.
So as explained in the board backup, when we went out to bid the abatement portion for the San Gabriel site, I was unclear whether we had to do the three portables that are there because they were built a lot later than the site itself. And so I wasn't sure that it had any kind of hazardous material in it that we needed to abate. I did put in a call to DUSA prior to that, but they are notoriously slow, and they didn't get back to me until after we entered into the contract, and they said, yeah, you need to do that.
Oh.
And just so you all know, every site has some universal waste, and so we had to test that. So while they were out there, I authorized them to test it instead of bringing them back and paying more money.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So we're not clear if there is or not, but I'm sure there is.
There is.
That'll-
In every site we have, there's what they call universal waste, which is basically the light tubes that are above us. They contain mercury.
Mercury, right.
So that means every single site that we have has some hazardous materials in it, and we collect them centrally at the maintenance shop.
And it's an increase of $1,500.
Yeah, $1,500 is
Right.
$500 per portable.
Other questions?
No.
Questions or comments? Motion?
Move we approve the change order to contract with Vista.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor of approving the change order, say aye.
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 So that's unanimous then.
Thank you,
That
Don.
approval.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Don,
Don.
for hanging out with us this evening. All right, oh, well, that was so efficient. All I have to do is crack the whip.
Yeah, you
I
really
think that was
did.
me.
Very
It was a
successful.
fine
Why, are
job,
we almost done?
trustees.
That, so
Wow.
that actually
Oh.
completes everything except board and superintendent comments,
Whoa.
which could include Dr. Brown
I have no
representing the super-
comments.
No comments. Board comments.
No more. I've talked enough.
I just got some quick ones.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead, Alan.
I attended the PAWS meeting, the Promoting Albany High School Athletics meeting, and the venture class. The new venture class proposed providing the business aspects of collecting and promoting donations for athletics. And they did a really nice presentation. I think that class is an incredible addition to what we're providing at the school. It's real, it provides an entrepreneurial atmosphere for those students to be creative. And I think they've done so with this proposal to the Promoting Albany Athletic. And then, let's see, so I also attended the city council meeting, in which the council was to approve looking at changing the term limits for board members. And
I thought they were just approving
they're not, they're approving sending it to the Charter Review Committee
Right.
for
not-
review. Then they will bring it back to the council if it gets through the charter review.
Right.
And the council will vote to put it on the ballot so that the citizens have an opportunity changing the term limits for board members. I actually spoke against the proposal, but I spoke in favor of placing it on the charter review and giving the citizens an opportunity to vote. I hope I didn't violate our Protocol 10 about working in concert with all board members. If I did,
I think you did.
if I did, I was speaking for my own conscience and concerns about being protecting my rights as a citizen.
You rebel, you.
Is that all, Ellen?
Yeah.
I'll just mention one thing, which is that tomorrow night, Nancy Skinner is holding a town hall in Albany at the Veterans Memorial Building from 7 to 8:30 p.m. I'm not able to attend. I don't know if anyone else is.
I've changed my plans. Barbara Lee will be there as well.
Yeah, that's
And,
right.
Who else?
Mayor
Peggy
Thompson,
Thompson.
Mayor Thompson and our Alameda
Supervisor.
County Supervisor.
Keith Carson.
Yeah, Keith Carson,
Yeah.
right.
If you're going, tell them to get up there and get more money for education.
Well, I was planning on attending the school care board meeting, which I generally go to, but I sent them an email saying, because they're going to be talking about education in Albany as well as a lot of things that tie in, so I want to at least show my face.
Great. Thanks, Ron.
And tomorrow night is also the open house at Albany Middle School.
It's a lot going on tomorrow.
Thursday.
It's a busy night.
Thursday, isn't it?
Thursday night.
Tomorrow night is the
Site council at Cornell.
Well, they're doing a parent.
They're doing something about math tomorrow night at the middle school.
And I will be there to watch Peter discuss it. I'm looking forward to it.
tomorrow night. Principal Deborah Brill and I will be working with the parents at Albany Middle School to understand more about the plans we have for mathematics for next year.
Right.
And I look forward to learning about it.
Thursday night is Albany Middle School open house.
Right. Will you be attending tomorrow at the math?
I will, we each adopt a school, and the middle school is my adopted school, and I look forward to hearing Principal Brill and Dr. Parenti talk to a wide audience of parents, very concerned and interested parents about the changes in math curriculum. I look forward to it.
I believe that same night is open house for the iSearch projects as well. They're going to be displaying the iSearch
That will
project.
probably be at the open house. They do that
Yeah.
every year. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And that's on Thursday? I think that's on Thursday.
Thursday.
And it's changed, it's not going to be in the library this time, but it's going to be in specific classrooms of those teachers.
They've done it previously. It's always wonderful. And the kids, like when my son was in 8th grade, he would wander to every classroom looking to see what all the other iSearches look like. It's very common.
So Pat, would you be willing to report back to the board, maybe just in board comments next time about what you hear from parents at the math? I mean, maybe you will as well. I don't know, Peter, if
Certainly
there's
can
a...
if you'd
Yeah,
like me to.
it'll be interesting. I think it would be very interesting to hear who comes, what their concerns are, and also to hear what Deborah and Peter how they explain what Common Core will be for the new middle and high schoolers.
Yeah. All right, thanks, everyone. Is that everything?
That's it.
Meeting is
Thank you.
adjourned.
We did well.
Yeah.
Thank you, President.